The date is December 2nd, 1993. The location is Barrio Los Olivos in Medellín, Colombia. It is 3:15 in the afternoon. On a red-tiled rooftop, a heavy-set man in a t-shirt is running. He is barefoot, running for his life. 24 hours earlier, he celebrated his 44th birthday. Below him, dozens of Colombian police officers are closing on him. And above him, a surveillance plane is circling. He is the drug lord, Pablo Escobar. 16 months earlier, he had simply walked out of his own prison. Now he has nowhere left to walk. Surrounded by police officers, in the next 90 seconds, who knew the world's richest criminal will be dead? The question is not whether he dies today. The question is who actually pulls the trigger and who benefits most from his silence. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back to July 22nd, 1992. That is the night Escobar escaped from La Catedral, the luxury prison he had personally designed and built for himself in 1991. La Catedral had a soccer field, a jacuzzi, and a bar. Colombian officials had allowed Escobar to negotiate the terms of his own incarceration in exchange for ending his campaign of bombings. When the government tried to transfer him to a real prison, Escobar simply left. From that night forward, the most powerful drug trafficker in modern history was a fugitive in his own country. At the height of his power in the late 1980s, Medellín cartel controlled an estimated 80% of the cocaine entering the United States. Forbes magazine listed him as one of the richest men on earth, with an estimated net worth of $30 billion. He had built entire neighborhoods in Medellín. He had also ordered the assassination of a Colombian justice minister, a presidential candidate, and hundreds of police officers. In 1989, his cartel bombed Avianca Flight 203, killing hundreds of people. This was not an accident. It was a targeted attack meant to kill a single informant, who, it turned out, was never even on the plane. By late 1992, the manhunt for Escobar had become the largest in Colombian history. The Colombian government created a specialized unit called the Search Bloc, led by Colonel Hugo Martinez. The United States sent support in the form of the Drug Enforcement Administration, the CIA, and a small number of U.S. Army Delta Force operators, officially in an advisory and technical role. Their mission was surveillance and radio signal tracking, and not direct combat, according to official U.S. officials. In January 1993, a vigilante group calling itself Los Pepes, an acronym for People Persecuted by Pablo Escobar, began systematically killing Escobar's lawyers, relatives, and associates. According to multiple journalistic investigations, some members of Los Pepes had direct ties to Colombian security forces and to the rival Cali cartel. Each attack was a message, every safe house a target. Meanwhile, the Search Bloc used a new American technology, radio triangulation equipment, that could locate a cell phone signal within a few hundred meters. Escobar had one fatal habit over the decade. He needed to talk to his family, and this habit would kill him. How did the world react to a year of open urban warfare in Medellín? For the United States, Escobar had become a symbol of a much larger problem: the failure of the war on drugs to stop cocaine at its source. President George H.W. Bush's administration, and later Bill Clinton's, treated the manhunt as a national security priority, not simply a Colombian police matter. For the United Kingdom and Europe, Escobar represented the visible face of a cocaine trade that was now flooding cities from London to Amsterdam. Secondary players emerged with their own agenda. The Cali cartel, Escobar's bitter rivals, wanted him dead so they could inherit his trafficking routes uncontested. Colombian President Cesar Gaviria wanted him dead to end the violence that had made Colombia ungovernable. And the United States wanted him dead too, to prove that its war on drugs could still produce a decisive victory. there were three different strategies. One single target. This manhunt is often framed as a clean, heroic story. American technology and Colombian police justice finally catching a monster. The documented reality is messier. According to congressional testimony and later journalistic investigations, including reporting tied to journalist Mark Bowden's research for his book, Killing Pablo, U.S. officials were aware of Los Pepes' extrajudicial killings while the manhunt continued. Some U.S. personnel reportedly raised internal concerns about the group's tactics and its links to Colombian intelligence figures. This was not an accident. When a government's stated goal, capturing a criminal alive, quietly becomes secondary. To a coalition's goal of eliminating him by any means, that is not an intelligence failure. That is a policy choice. And the real beneficiaries of Escobar's elimination were not the Colombian people exhausted by his violence. They were the Cali cartel, who absorbed his trafficking networks within months and continued shipping cocaine into the United States and Europe for years afterward. Killing the king did not end the kingdom. It just changed who wore the crown. By December 1993, Escobar was isolated, exhausted, and reportedly down to a small circle of just 2 bodyguards. On December 1st, his 44th birthday, he made a phone call to his son, Juan Pablo, reportedly to wish him well, amid rumors the family was trying to negotiate safe passage out of Colombia. That call, made from a modest 2-story house on Calle 79 in Barrio Los Olivos, was intercepted. The search block moved in, but what Escobar didn't know was that this call would be his last mistake in a decade of careful survival. At 3 p.m., officers surrounded the building. Escobar and his last remaining bodyguard, Alvaro de Jesus Agudelo, known as El Limon, attempted to flee across the rooftops, a tactic that had worked for Escobar before. This time, there was nowhere left to run. Within minutes, both men were shot. Escobar was struck 3 times, including a final shot to the head. According to the official Colombian government account, search block officers fired the fatal shots. According to reports circulated by some journalists and by members of Escobar's own family, including his son, the fatal head wound was inconsistent with a shootout and may indicate Escobar shot himself to avoid capture. This remains disputed and has never been conclusively resolved. What is verified is this. At approximately 3:15 p.m. on December 2, 1993, Pablo Escobar was dead, 1 day after turning 44. So what happens next, and what does history tell us about manhunts like this one? In the immediate aftermath, Colombians in Medellín's poorer neighborhoods, where Escobar had funded housing and soccer fields, mourned him as a benefactor. Wealthier Colombians and much of the international community celebrated his death as justice finally served. But the cocaine kept moving. Within 2 years, the Cali cartel controlled an even larger share of the global cocaine trade than Escobar ever had. The United States would spend the following decades and billions of dollars fighting that cartel. And the ones that came after it. History tells us this pattern repeats. Remove the visible leader of a trafficking network, and the demand, the routes, and the money remain untouched. The war on drugs has claimed dozens of high-profile targets since 1993. The trade itself has never meaningfully shrunk, so here is the verdict. Layer 1 of this story is the visible actor, Pablo Escobar himself, a violent, calculating man who built an empire on cocaine and blood, and a Colombian police unit that finally caught up with him. Layer 2 is the systemic force, a decades-long alliance between Colombian and American law enforcement, shaped as much by geopolitics and the war on drugs as by justice. Layer 3 is the hidden beneficiary, the Cali cartel and the broader trafficking infrastructure that quietly inherited everything Escobar built, proving that removing one man does not remove a system. Was Pablo Escobar's death a genuine triumph of justice, or simply the transfer of power to a quieter, smarter cartel? Let us know in the comments what you think.